We are going to start with something else.
Well, we touched on this. Well, actually, Russ, you had something before the.
I do. So apparently, there's a video out of Hulk Hogan challenging a fan or somebody in like a hotel lobby bar, apparently over a Shirley Temple.
Really?
And it got heated, and then you could see Hulk Hogan's there with like a big. He's got a crutch. He's got one crutch, so something's been operated on, or he just doesn't walk very well anymore, which I kind of noticed. But this guy's 66 years old, and he's going, like, take it outside. Let's take it outside. and then he makes a wife joke, like, to the guy, and the guy's not going to go outside, even if he mouthed off to him. What I don't understand is you're a 66-year-old guy. Can't you just walk away?
Yeah, and Hulk Hogan should be the last person to tell wife jokes as after the whole thing with who was that DJ that he basically had the affair with his wife.
Oh yeah, I forget the guy's name.
Yeah, and they made a video of it, and that's how the guy found out. It's Hulk, learn to step off the stage. Nobody cares about you except like.
He did eventually walk away, but it's like, again, that whole thing just turns me off. And of course, this article gives them mention that, hey, the WWE is in Saudi Arabia, and it's like, yeah, that's great. Go collect money from the Saudi.
That's what this is about, right? I mean, it's all about. I mean, Hulk is just doing his normal thing.
Well, I don't know. This wasn't his normal thing, but this is just a website that happens to mention that he's going to Saudi Arabia, and it's like, great. So now you're giving a plug for something that is so reprehensible. Even me as a wrestling fan will not watch any minute of it, any video of it. I didn't watch it the first time they had it. It's ridiculous. But anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so we touched on this list, and it's an old list, but it's so it was so interesting that somebody posted it online. It was like a 9-year-old list from Rolling Stone magazine of the top 100 singers, and we went through the top 20. And we had a problem with a number of them, but we're just going to touch on this because here is the from 21 to 40, and I'll read it off quickly, and then we'll just touch on ones that we think are completely ridiculous. 21 Johnny Cash, 22 Etta James, 23 David Bowie, 24 Van Morrison, and 25 Michael Jackson. Okay, the only one I have a problem in those 5 is Etta James.
Right.
And again, this list, when we talked about it, it was very heavy on Motown, R&B, and soul of the originators. And I like I said, I love Ray Charles.
Okay, now, just to be like a jerk about it, if you've got Etta James there, somebody that almost nobody has ever listened to except for maybe a song.
At Last, yeah.
Yeah. Like Dionne Warwick's better than that.
Yeah.
In terms of popularity, yeah, I agree.
Just as an example, not that she even belongs there, but at least if you put Dionne Warwick there, I wouldn't say anything.
Okay, and to continue with the trend here, 26 through 30, Jackie Wilson, Hank Williams, Sr., not Jr.
Okay.
Janis Joplin, Nina Simone.
I don't know who that is.
She's a jazz singer.
Yeah,
like a jazz blues singer.
Jazz singer, but she's known for 1 or 2 songs. But there's an extensive library. And 30 was Prince. Okay, again, Jackie Wilson and Nina Simone. Again, the founders rather than the people who are, I would think, who are the top 100 singers. Exactly.
Yeah. Prince should be higher than that.
Okay. 31 through 35. Howlin' Wolf. What the hell?
That's my phone.
Foreigner. That's fine.
Hey, Urgent is a great ringtone.
Lou Graham is not on the list.
Your wife's ringtone.
Okay. Yeah. 32 is Bono.
Right.
33 is Steve Winwood.
Right.
34 is Whitney Houston, and 35 is Dusty Springfield. Okay, Howlin' Wolf, I have a problem with.
Whitney Houston probably should be in the top 10 if you're including all singers that way. And Mariah Carey should probably be in the top 10 if you're including singers for like their range and their vocal. This guy's a moron.
Well, you have to define this. It's
all over the place.
Right. And okay, so finally, here you go. 36 through 40. Number 36, Bruce Springsteen.
Yep. Should be on there.
37, Neil Young. 38, Elton John. 39, Jeff Buckley. And 40, Curtis Mayfield. There is no list on God's green earth.
Absolutely.
Wait. There's no list on God's green earth that Bruce Springsteen and Neil Young are better singers than Elton John.
No, there's no way.
No way.
Well, again, we're talking about singers. It's like,
But the list is called Top 100 Singers.
I know, but how do you find what's a good singer?
No, and that's right. And that's why the list that I did on Sportsology, I did the top 20 rock lead singers of all time. I narrowed it to rock.
Yeah, that's better because you can specifically do something. But
at least then you could say, all right, now at least I have an idea. This is all over the place, and I mean, Springsteen definitely should be in that list. But if Billy Joel's not in the list, that's just stupid. That's not Springsteen's fault. But there's so many. Like again,
no, it is so crazy.
I don't even think
Jeff Buckley's a good call. I think that's like one of those that people don't really know. But
I don't even know who he is. I know William F. Buckley. I don't know who Jeff Buckley is.
Yeah, Jeff Buckley is not alive anymore, but he had he was kind of like a brief career. But Elliott Smith. You know Elliott Smith?
No, I don't.
That's another one of the. I mean, these are great. These guys, you would love them. Both.
Don't get me wrong. I think Jeff Buckley, his version of Hallelujah is incredible, and he's.
I've heard that.
Okay. And he's got a fantastic voice. But do I think that he's like one of the top 100 singers of all time? No. And, Neil Young.
Neil Young is not like if you like him, great.
Right. And I love him. I love his music.
He's a unique singer. He's got a unique voice. It's unique. I mean, the most unique voices is another list. Like that's another thing altogether.
Like, when Neil Young sings, cows moo. They do.
Yeah, like if you just want no, but he's got a thing. He's got a thing for sure.
Yeah. His thing is he's a great songwriter and he's a great performer. Singing.
So we'll save 41 through 60 for another.
No, it's this list is just annoying.
There's one that I wondered is on there, and I was thinking about this because my wife brought it up, and she's absolutely right about this. As I was talking to her about this list, is Billie Holiday.
Yeah, sure, Billie Holiday.
I'm sure she's on here somewhere.
She should. I mean, she should be in the top.
She should already be in the top 50. I mean, that's ridiculous.
I mean, listen. I mean, I don't know if you guys aren't a fan of this. I know you're not because I am, but There's a show called The Voice that's on, right?
Oh no, I am not watching that. No,
she is not on the list. Billie Holiday is not on the list.
That's just.
And I'm not watching The Masked Singer. I'm not watching any of it.
If you guys ever want to set a mood in your house, like if you ever have people over for dinner, like you're having whatever, you're just having people over to hang out, put on Billie Holiday, just have Billie Holiday stream through your Alexa or whatever. It's like the perfect thing. It's perfect. And she was amazing.
She's a great singer. There's no question.
Incredibly difficult life, and but that's like and that's the thing. I mean, if you watch The Voice, okay, we have these debates all the time because they're picking singers, on there. And again, it's like, how do you pick a singer? Is it like style? Is the cool thing about The Voice that they do, which is kind of interesting, is they pick when you're first going on The Voice and you go up, you have these things called blind auditions, where the judges are facing away from you. And so no one's looking at you while you're singing. It's just your voice, which is interesting. That's like, because that does change things a lot. So when you look at somebody, that definitely gives you an impression of how they are, like as they sing, so because of that reason, some of the people on The Voice, are not necessarily your rock star type people. They're just guys or whatever, or girls who happen to have great voices. What they're looking for, which is a lot of like vibrato, a lot of like improvisation, a lot all over the map. There's all different kinds of people.
Okay, so.
Look at Karen Carpenter for a second. Like Karen Carpenter, okay, the Carpenters, has had like that voice without any vibrato, very clean, very pure. Very much like our singer in the Bray Glances band. Very
Muskrat Love makes me cry.
This is straight up. I don't think it's called Muskrat. I think
that's Captain and Tennille, wasn't it?
Oh, is it? Oh, okay, maybe you're right.
Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas and things like that. That you would have the Carpenters that you hear every right. I mean, Carpenter and me.
Close to You. I remember the Close to You song. That
Karen Carpenter died. But she's a great singer. Annie Haslam's a great singer. Renaissance. Sure. There's all kinds of all over the map. So,
but this is the problem.
Fairport Convention. There are different genres.
What different is a singer and what is an entertainer. Like there's a difference there.
Yeah,
because the singer just sings. That's it. Like the singer is like Frank Sinatra. He doesn't write anything. He doesn't do anything other than singing. That is a singer. Then you have a singer who does sometimes write their own songs or play an instrument and sing.
Right. Microphone, mic, see if it's any better. Is that better? Check 1, 2.
Yeah, it's drifting.
Is it better now that I changed the microphone to a different thing? Let me try this.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
Muscar loved Captain Neon. I tried to make fun of
that. Yeah, unfortunately, I remember that. It's like the one that is burned in my memory, Russ. She would never be up on any top 100 list. But in terms of like annoying 70s ballads, it was called "Loving You" by Minnie Riperton.
Oh, I remember that song. Please don't.
That song makes you want to find a bridge and jump off of it.
Yeah, don't put that in my head, man. Wow.
How about now? There's different kinds of singers. They're all different.
Oh yeah, please hear. Yeah, the Carpenters did "Mr. Postman." They did a remake of that. Yeah. They did.
Which nobody realized was a Beatles song.
Right. I Won't Last a Day Without You.
Rainy Days and Mondays Always Get You Down.
Yeah, and We've Only Just Begun.
We've only just begun to live. Yeah.
My parents had us brainwashed to that. I know the words to all those songs, man.
Oh yeah, that was the thing, right? I know.
Well, and we'll start talking hockey in a second. But it's weird. It's weird how like you listen to songs that you didn't have any control over listening to when you were a kid. Maybe even when you were a baby in the crib. And you hear them and you hear them and you hear them, and then all of a sudden, like you hear it like years later, and for some reason you know this song, and it's because you were brainwashed into there was a song in the 60s called "Incense and Peppermints."
Oh yeah,
by the Strawberry Alarm Clock.
Yep.
And I heard that on like an oldie station, like flipping through the channels like about 6 months ago. And I'm like, how the hell do I know this crappy song? And it was because like my mom or my brother, when he was like 7, bought this. Yeah. And it's like, oh my God, it's so bad, but you know it.
I vowed if I was a parent, I would never do that to my kids and be in charge of the music 100% of the time. But my parents were pretty much in charge of the music 100% of the time.
God. Okay, let's.
How about the Zombies? There's another one. How about that one? There's another one.
But who's the lead singer of the Zombies? Can you name him?
As an Oracle. That album was amazing. I can't name the lead singer of the Zombies.
Well, then it doesn't belong on the list. Because I can't. Can you name the lead singer?
Real quick story about the Zombies. Real quick zombie stories, then we'll start. Okay, real fast. I'll do this in a minute. I was listening to a podcast about this, and it was an amazing story. Okay, the Zombies put out the Odyssey and Oracle album, which has like the Time of the Season for Love. That's a big zombie song. That album is phenomenal. Roy listed 100 albums of all time. Odyssey and Oracle. It's really like it's the epitome of like British psychedelic pop. So they broke up when the album came out because they couldn't get it going. They couldn't get the thing going. They were broke by the time it came in America. And so in America, this is like the early 70s. There was a big following like English bands again. Like every club wanted an English band because the Beatles weren't playing and all that stuff, and there weren't that many touring around. So I was things like Power Revere and Rangers and Power Revere and the what were they called? Power Revere and the
Raiders.
Power Revere and the Raiders, right? And the Rangers. Power Revere and the Raiders. Bands like that. So anyway. The Zombies weren't touring, so a company out in California put together a fake Zombies that went on the road for 4 years playing as the Zombies. They were a band. They were a group of guys from Texas, and they weren't the Zombies at all. But no one in America at that time, this is like before the internet, knew who the Zombies were. So they played, and so finally the Zombies found out about it. And they would like lie to Rolling Stone and to radio stations. They would say, "Oh yeah, we don't know all the original members. This guy died and that guy died." These people weren't dead. They were just making up these stories as they go along. It was hilarious. So eventually, the Zombies find out. they sue them and everything like that. But they made tons of money, and there were 3 members of that band that toured as the Zombies. 2 of those guys are 2 of the 3 members of ZZ Top.
Okay, so interesting.
What a weird! That's just a bizarre story.
The
But that actually happened.
lead singer's name is Colin Blunstone, and for 73 years, I didn't know who the hell he is because he's 74 years old, but now I know. And in case anybody cares, he's playing in the Netherlands in 17 days. He's got 3 nights at
an old folks' home.
at the Culture Podium, Bodersley, and P60 and some other place.
Let's start.
That band went on to form his own band called
Argent.
He's on that band. Argent.
You're
all right.
This guy does not belong on the list. Sorry.
Yeah. All right, guys. Listening to go. Yes, there is Hockey Talk today. Hello, Hockey World. It's Monday, October 28th, 2019.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen.
And I am Mecklin. You're watching the HockeyBuzzcast at HockeyBuzz.com. I'm really minimalistic today. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast, HockeyBuzz.com. The podcast comes to everybody right there. Here we go. We're in live. Show's begun. 23. All right. Okay. A couple things. First off, the bad news today. So far, there's been some bad news today, and that is that Vlad Tarasenko is going to miss 5 months with a shoulder injury. This is obviously a big deal, and really, I don't know. I mean, what does this do for the Blues? I mean, the Central Division is tough. It's tight.
I think it makes the Blues move from a guaranteed top 3 in the Central to a bubble team because Tarasenko provides a lot of offense. Now, they're not without talent like down in the organization. I mean, does this mean that a guy like Klim Kostin gets more of an offensive opportunity, or guys like Kyrou and Thomas move up and get more opportunities? I don't know. I mean, I'll leave that up to their coaching staff. Yeah. It's a big loss because he's, I think, their best scorer.
Yeah, it's a big loss because you would need 2 people to do what Tarasenko does. Like Kostin probably isn't going to be much of a scorer in the NHL, but he has the physical play. Well, so does Tarasenko. But then you're missing all those goals. You're missing his shot on the power play. I went back and looked, and I couldn't see exactly which shoulder because I don't think there's video.
They said left.
No. I know that, Mike. But thank you for jumping in. In 2011, during the World Juniors, when he hurt his shoulder, he went out of that game. Marcus Foligno went into his shoulder, and he came back in the 3rd period, and he started the charge that led Russia against Canada. And after the game, and he didn't speak much English, I went up to him and I just said, how bad's your shoulder? And he went, bad. And that was it. That's the only conversation I had with him. And I kind of wonder if he's just been dealing with this shoulder all these years. Mm-hmm. And now he's had to get it operated on because apparently Kuznetsov hurt his shoulder in that game too. Yeah. And a couple of years later, had to get a shoulder surgery. So
now the one factor here is, and then we're getting in more into X territory in terms of trade rumors, is with this, they put Tarasenko on long-term injury. It opens up his $7.5 million cap hit. Somebody in the chat was saying, well, they could trade for Mike Hoffman or Kreider or something like that. I mean, the question is for those teams, and I don't think Florida's going to trade Hoffman right now because Florida's we're less than a month in the season. They're fighting for a playoff spot, and the Rangers, even though they started out slow, I don't think they want to move Kreider right away. You're talking about giving up future assets for those guys, and those are quick fixes. And I don't know whether after winning a Stanley Cup, they're looking for a quick fix to fill Tarasenko, the absences created by Tarasenko.
Yeah, I mean, the cynic will say that, Blues fans will say that Tarasenko has missed 5 months at a time while he's been skating with the team too, because he does tend to disappear for long stretches. So the idea of Tarasenko is important. He's a great player, but he also has moments when he isn't a great player, they have survived. I think this team has learned to play without him. Even when he's in the lineup, they've learned that they can't depend on scoring. They've learned that he's, he has great seasons, but he also has horrible stretches where he doesn't do anything at all. So I think they'll be fine as far as making the playoffs.
They're not going to be fine. Not without Tarasenko. No, you could talk about long.
I don't think it changes the playoffs.
Oh no, he's the best player on that team by far.
He's the best player on the team, but they go stretches and they do very well when he doesn't score too. So
but he
it's not
does
like
other things. He provides heavy play. He, just because he's not scoring doesn't mean he's not giving something to them. I think
his effort is not consistent at all, though. I mean, you have to admit that. I mean, it's all over the map.
Yes, you're 100% right on that. But I do believe he gives a lot more to the team than just that.
He does. But I think I think they're not going to go too crazy here. Like I don't think this is going to be this make them do anything nuts for now.
I don't think they will either. And I think the fact that they won a cup last year takes the pressure off in terms of, well, we got to do something.
Right.
Yeah, for sure, no question about it. I do have a trade rumor too that I want to talk about because I talked about somebody this morning about this morning, and
right,
it's kind of an interesting one, and that is that the Red Wings they're struggling. They got off to a great start, and since then they've been really terrible as far as they haven't won many games since they won I think 3 of their first 4 or something like that. They were off to a top start, and now it's looking like perhaps they're going to be able to move. I'm not able to move, but the Penguins are looking at Athanasiou, who, as we all remember, signed a deal last year. The Penguins cleared up some cap space, not enough for Athanasiou, like $4 million for in the brand and move out of there. They still have room to go, but this does feel very much like a Rutherford type. Rutherford always has done things in the past in 2s and 3s, like deals are connected together.
Mm-hmm.
Clearing up that cap space at this particular time,
I'm not shooting this down because in some ways it fits because Athanasiou can play center. They're without Malkin, so he would be somebody who could fill in for Malkin until Malkin gets back. Then he can either move to the wing or stay as third line center. Galchenyuk is up at the end of the year, so if they wanted to sign him and he's an arbitration eligible restricted free agent, they could re-sign him. And they did open up the cap space with the Branson deal. But the problem here is, what is Pittsburgh giving Detroit? The only thing I can see right now, other than a defenseman, which I know that Pittsburgh has a lot of extra defensemen, but you're giving up a Athanasiou, you're going to want like a Marcus Peterson, and I don't think that Pittsburgh wants to give that kind of guy up, is maybe your future goaltender if you think Tristan Jarry is a future number 1. Otherwise, I don't know what Pittsburgh has to give Detroit that Yzerman is going to say, oh, boy, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that is the big question. And, it kind of goes, that we never really know how Rutherford's thinking, but this does maybe give a little bit of an insight to the fact that the Penguins are thinking now. They are still thinking now. They're still in the now mode, which I think is true. I think it's true about the Penguins and the Capitals.
They have to be.
Yeah, with Crosby and Malkin, early 30s now, right?
And Letang too.
Yeah, looking at a team that's still.
But you're not trading Letang ever. It's not happening.
No. I'm just saying their win. I mean, X right. Their window right now is the next 2 to 3 years with guys in their early 30s.
Yeah.
They're not going to deviate from that. They're going to continue to sort of patchwork to try to take 1 or 2 runs at the Cup, and then Pittsburgh is going to suck for about 4 or 5 years, like they've done before when they've drafted Lemieux and Crosby. So.
Although you watch in 8 more years, we'll still be talking about Chris.
Oh, maybe you never know.
I think Crosby will play a long time too. I really feel like I think both those guys are kind of the first of the new generation of players that playing into their late 30s at a high level isn't going to be new. Isn't going to be uncommon. I think you're going to see a lot of that just because of the conditioning and the training and stuff like that these guys are under. I mean, Crosby doesn't seem to be slowing down at all in my mind.
If I were Yzerman, no, I agree. If I were Yzerman, I would ask for either Kasper Borquist because he's close, or Philip Allender because he's not that far away, and a 2nd round pick. That's what I would ask. Yeah.
I mean, I know the Red Wings. They're not thrilled with Athanasiou. They are. They have the moments to get kind of he's a good player, but again, doesn't always kind of doesn't show up sometimes. Has been considered pretty consistent for a while here.
Well, this is the problem, Mac, and Athanasiou is represented by Darren Ferris, And we
Yes.
know that Detroit, and it was Ken Holland at the time, but we know Detroit had a problem with the negotiations with Darren Ferris after Tennessee's entry-level contract expired. He held out until I think it was the middle of October, and then signed a 1-year deal and then signed a 2-year extension.
Yeah.
I don't know how anxious our teams are to deal with Darren Ferris. And now the thing is, if Tennessee has put up good years, he's going to be arbitration eligible. They may be reading the landscape and saying, okay, he's going to walk himself to unrestricted free agency by accepting an arbitration award like Trouba did in Winnipeg. And when that kind of stuff happens, you have to sort of say, okay, are we going to keep this guy long-term, or do we want to cash out now while his value is high?
Right. No, and I think that this feels like a Rutherford type trade to me. This feels like a Rutherford type guy. So I won't be tracking it, but it makes it just more than like all the other stuff. There's certain things with Rutherford that just kind of fit. This is one of them. I really feel that this is one of them at least. All right, moving on.
Let's let Russ talk about the Flyers, because I think that's a pretty interesting subject.
Yeah, actually, I was going to say one last thing. I didn't realize I was muted. The one thing we don't know is how Yzerman feels about the Tennessee. This was Holland.
Right. It was Holland. But Yzerman and Holland are pretty similar. I mean, honestly, they really are.
To a degree.
Yeah.
All right, but anyhow.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely different, but I think that, Yzerman definitely learned under Holland how to beat the M.
Okay, yeah, there's no question, but I think his tastes are different. All right, so let's have a little Flyers talk. We're going to have some real talk here. So we did talk about, Mike and I, that there could be a, second-year issue with Carter Hart, like 99% of the second-year goalies, and he is going through that right now. He is definitely in a funk. My position on it is he'll get out of it. Now you probably should split games with him and Elliott, because, look, AV is a new coach. He's going to give Hart the benefit of the doubt, and he did in that game simply because the day before they came back, and he couldn't stick with Hart, so he had to pull him again. Rather than keep pulling him, he's probably going to split duties for a while. I could see that.
Yeah, I think splitting's a good idea. I mean, obviously, Elliott had a great week. He was a hot goalie. He was third star of the week in the NHL last week.
Yep.
He definitely had a very strong week at the time the Flyers needed it badly, which is good for them. I mean, that's what you need at times like that. You're right. I mean, this is you feel bad for Hart, but it's tough at the same time because there are so many circumstances involved. I mean, the first 3 games of the season, Hart was outstanding. The last 3 games, he's been terrible. I mean, that's really typical of young players, especially goalies, is that, sometimes you see things that they'll just blow your mind, and sometimes they'll look awful. You're not going to see consistency necessarily from young players too often, even though that's what you need out of a goalie. So it's a tough spot. I think you're right that as long as Elliott is playing well too, you have no reason not to split them and kind of take the pressure off of Hart.
Right.
Besides that, the Flyers are playing pretty well. And
I mean, they are and they aren't. It's weird. They're doing a good job forechecking.
Yeah.
They have urgency when they play. But yesterday they got beat up.
Yeah, they did.
The Islanders beat them up. They beat them up in the corners. They were first to lose pucks. The Flyers do have an issue being first to lose pucks. They're not great with that. And the Islanders won the battle of the neutral zone because once the Flyers were trying to get anywhere near the blue line to get into gain the offensive zone, they were getting derailed before that. And for most of the game, the Flyers did not have an answer for that.
No, I mean, they didn't. But yet they have, some really good signs along the way, and with the season Travis Konechny is having is pretty phenomenal. Having 12 points already right now, and also,
Spear had another horrible game.
Yeah.
And Sam Morin, let's be fair. Like, if this was his audition, he's not going to play again.
Yeah. I mean, I do agree there. And Giroux is trying to work way out a little, but he's still, Voracek's playing better than he did in the beginning of the year. I think he's on the market. They would move in a second. I think every player has a better chance they have of doing that, but I don't know that, I think that's what their goal is eventually with him. And also, you have to give some credit to the Islanders yesterday. I mean, this team, they've won 7 games.
A lot of credit.
They won 7 games in a row. I mean, Barry Trotz is just such a crazy coach. I mean,
Yes.
I thought the team would struggle because just couldn't see it continuing that magic from last year. And right now they have. I mean, they even though they lost their goalie, it's just kind of crazy. The whole thing has been really interesting to see how they're working this out. I mean, Greiss is playing well when he has to. I mean, it's been amazing. It's been an incredible season, and Barry Trotz he just is a hell of a coach. That's all you can say about it, really. Honestly, there's no two ways about it. He gets so much out of players.
Yeah, but he gets so much out of very little, and again, I don't know how much is there with the Islanders. I'm skeptical of their depth, of their ability to score. And last year, we know that they made the playoffs, because they got a great performance out of Robin Lehner, and they got some balanced scoring. And I don't know whether that can be repeated. Now, I wanted to touch on this because I know this is a. Go ahead.
Is it Islander related, Mike, or no?
No, it's not.
Okay, so I want to add one more thing. I mean, they're trying to work in Oliver Wahlstrom. He hasn't scored yet, but he does look pretty good. And Pulock looks like he's really cemented in now. Like that goal yesterday, even though Hart should have stopped it, that is a shot that if you continue to incorporate that in your team, he's eventually going to have an 18-goal season. Like he just has that kind of talent.
Yeah. No, you're right. By the way, on Robin Lehner, as an aside, really quickly, he has just looked horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, watch if you want to watch a bad goaltending game, the Flyers Blackhawks game.
Yeah.
Where Leonard was just as bad as any goalie I've seen.
Well, that's what happened. I mean, it was reminiscent of how Leonard played in Buffalo in front of a bad defense. And that's the thing. You put a stable defense in front of him and he can look really good. And then when you're expecting him to really make a difference in front of what I think is a subpar defense in the with the Blackhawks, it exposes him. And I think that was a mistake that he made, but that was more of an evaluation of that Lou Lamoriello made, that he didn't want to sign him long term. Now,
sorry, Mike. Just you mentioned the Blackhawks. What I was going to say is, so I was chatting online with a Blackhawks fan that I know, and they're happy because they put Strome and DeBrincat back together and feel like that's going to propel them. I mean, they beat the Kings, but otherwise the Blackhawks have been awful.
Oh, they've been really bad.
And tied in with the Blackhawks and another team, two rather prominent named players were healthy scratches yesterday. One was Brent Seabrook with the Blackhawks, and the other one was Bobby Ryan from Ottawa. Now, Seabrook, I think I'm being kind here. I think most people thought he was washed up last year, but that contract is so bad that and it's so front loaded or so bonus loaded that it really can't be bought out. Yeah, that the Blackhawks are in a situation where they really can't move it. And Bobby Ryan has got 2 more years after this year. It's 7.25. He's got a goal in 10 games. I mean, right now I don't know how Pierre Dorian gets rid of that contract. I think they're stuck. I mean, what do you think about both of those guys, Russ?
Well, the fall of Bobby Ryan is just unbelievable. Like, it's just, the guy has a great shot and he is a good skater. But at this point now, I don't know I haven't watched him enough this year to see what's really ailing him now. But it's unbelievable how in the last couple of years, they just can't get much out of him. And I don't know what to spark him. I guess the only thing you can do is put him on a team that has great power play. Like if you traded him to the Penguins, I think he would get points on the power play. I do. But he's 32 years old, and it's just like it seems like it's all going quickly for him. I mean, he had 15 goals last year. He hasn't had 20 goals since 15-16, which is crazy.
No, it's true. It's true. I mean, he does a lot of things for them, though. He's kind of like you're talking about Tarasenko. He does things away from the puck too. That's still pretty good, but I still think he's got to score. Obviously, with that contract, he's got to score.
Right.
He makes. Every time I watch, if you watch Bobby Ryan for an entire game, you do see him definitely. It's not for lack of effort. Like, he's out there working hard, but it's just there are times when he just doesn't, things aren't going his way, and he's trying to set up players. He also needs to play with skilled players. He's that kind of player.
But he's only got 250 goals in his career, Act. You would think he would have more.
Yeah, I know. But he's also been in weird situations too. Like he really has. I mean, he hasn't been in like in Anaheim he had a good situation, but he was still always behind the first line. It was never like he was part of the first line at points, but he was always kind of like a second line guy there.
Yeah, and with Seabrook, he's got 1 goal, no assists in 9 games. He's a -5. He's 34 years old. He's got 4 years left at $6.875 million.
Yeah. Seabrook was never going to be a point guy, that's for sure. But he is supposed to play defense, and I think that may have been the first scratch in his career. Which, if it is, should have come earlier than that.
Right.
Than that. Look, that's going to be a contract where eventually we'll be talking about the contract of Brent Seabrook being somewhere else.
Well, I was
going to be playing anymore.
Yeah. I was gonna say, Russ. I mean, the only thing that could save Chicago right now is that he catches Marian Hossa's skin disease, and that he allows himself to be traded to a team.
Remember, Marian Hossa is going to be back.
Well, after that contract is expired.
When that contract runs out, he's going to be like, hallelujah, I can play again.
Right, yeah. I don't think so.
Heck, he is going to, mark my words.
Really? I would be shocked.
He's talking about it.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he's gonna play alongside Andrei Markov with CSKA or SK St. Petersburg.
In this era, guys, we could come up with an all-contract team, an all-LTIR team. You like Dave Bolin, you could have Nathan Horton,
David Clarkson. They're all Leafs. All Leafs. Stefan Robida on defense.
Chris Pronger.
Pavel Datsyuk in Arizona. I mean, is Pavel Datsyuk going to make the Arizona Coyotes Wall of Fame? That's what I'd like to know.
Nick Backstrom could be the goalie. We could probably field a full starting lineup.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so I have to touch on this because if I didn't, I think I'd be shirking my responsibility. The Leafs played arguably their best defensive game of the year on Friday against San Jose. Coincidentally, San Jose was playing in the second of back-to-back games. They had beaten Montreal the night before, so they came into Toronto. I think probably fairly tired. And in the third period, Toronto scores 3 goals and runs away with the game. They only allowed, I think it was 16 shots on Frederik Andersen. Same situation occurs. The Leafs go to Montreal. They play the Canadiens. The Canadiens jump on them in the first period. They allow 2 goals. They've allowed the first goal in 10 of 13 games, the Leafs have, which is abysmal.
Yeah.
They come back. They tie up the game. Second period, they play really good in the second. The face-off at the beginning of the third, 7 seconds in, Joel Armia scores, and basically all the energy is sapped out of the Leafs. They lose 5-2 to the Habs. The Leafs are second in the NHL in goals scored, 46 goals. They are the worst in the NHL in goals allowed, 45. So they've scored 46 goals, and their goal differential is +1. There's been no progress with this team off defensively. Now you can factor in they don't have Tavares, they don't have Hyman and Dermott. That only goes so far. Right now, their defensive concept is broken. And I don't think it's a thing where they're tuning out Babcock. I think it's the fact that Babcock wants this team to play a game that is not conducive to the skill that they have. And it's going to end in disaster the way it's going right now. Unless they play a lot better going down the stretch, this team makes the playoffs and probably loses in the first round because they simply cannot play anything close to playoff hockey. They can't.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And everyone's saying there's no issues with the coach's job being a possible problem or anything like that.
Not until the end of the year. I think Babcock's been given the year. I think they're going to see what they do in the playoffs. If they lose in the first round, I think he's getting fired. I've thought that all along. If they advance, if they go deeper, then I think he stays. But
what can they do at the deadline?
Nothing. Unless
trading a player to get another player, right?
Right, they would have to be money in, out, money out. But it's like their cap situation is so ridiculous right now that when Zach Hyman comes back and he's a $2.5 million cap hit, they have to clear 3 players off their existing roster.
Like, how much is Jason Spezza costing them?
$700,000, and that's the interesting thing. I was going to include this in my piece today. Kevin McGran reported that the Leafs are going to take advantage of there's a clause in the CBA where they can bring up players making less than $800,000 due to and if you remember, years ago, the Calgary Flames could only dress 15 players because they didn't have the cap room. There's a clause in the CBA where players don't count against the cap if you're under 20 men. So they're going to manipulate that to bring up players on emergency recall.
Oh God,
that are under $800,000. So that's how they get it. Because right now, once Hyman comes back, they're going to go down to 21 players.
But they're not going to get great players that way because, like,
no.
Bracco's making more than that. Like, you know,
no, he's on his ELC, so he's making like $863. So
so it's more than 7, whatever.
Yeah, it's going to be the guys that they signed, like Nick Shore and Kenny Agostino. And
I mean, Agostino's actually not a bad guy to bring up. To be honest, he can drive some play. He did well with Montreal in a short stint last year and does have good speed. He does.
But the point is that they've sort of painted themselves into this corner.
Yeah.
And they're probably gonna, once Tavares comes back and Hyman and Dermott come back, they're gonna be a 21 man roster team, which means one extra player. And whenever somebody gets hurt or somebody needs a rest, they're gonna call them up from the Marlies on emergency recall. And that's
it's a real shame. That's what it is.
Yeah, and then the only way that they can change things around if they think that they need the roster changed is to trade somebody on the existing roster out to bring somebody else in. And, you know, those deals, those hockey deals, we know they don't happen very often. So this is the roster, and this is what's going to, you know, they're going to have to play better and change. Otherwise, this is a long season.
We have a breaking story here, guys. So our guy Avis Kaniz, who covers the KHL for us and does an amazing job on Hockey Buzz, is definitely the guy to definitely follow him on Twitter and read his stuff on Hockey Buzz. Has just reported that apparently Malkin, Evgeny Malkin might be in some legal issues here. Apparently Malkin has been involved in some crypto money scheme.
Oh boy!
And there are some serious legal issues. In documents that have been leaked, he's shown as an American investor, which has now fueled loads of speculation. What we know so far, he said, Malkin was one of the co-founders of a project called Mark.Space, in which he invested around $4 million. Other investors have lost around $10 million after one of Malkin's partners apparently stole all the money. Malkin has not been involved in the day-to-day activities with the company, of course. However, his signatures are some pretty significant documents and technically could face jail time if found guilty. It's believed that Malkin wasn't informed or knew about the scam.
Are these charges in Russia or are these charges in the U.S.?
This is, I don't know yet. A lawyer has explained that Malkin never once visited our companies. All decisions were made by the 2 other people. Lawyers also claim that he has seen and held Malkin's American passport, which is an interesting thing in and of itself.
Yeah, why would he give it to the guy?
And why would Malkin have an American passport?
Well, maybe he, for all we know, how do we know he's not an American citizen now? Did he? I
mean, I guess he is. I mean, that's what you would think.
Or he could have dual citizenship. He could.
Yeah. He could.
Why is he giving that guy his passport is the question.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot.
Why is anybody investing in cryptocurrency? It's beyond me.
There's money in it. I mean, if you do
there's money in it too.
There's money in everything, but I mean, I'm not even a guy who does the stock market, so I'm the wrong person to ask.
Well, I still think, and I cannot remember the name of the player. I believe it's somebody Toronto related who wanted to be paid in Bitcoin instead of US dollars.
Yeah, Bitcoin. I mean, geez, if you have, I have a couple of buddies who did the farming of Bitcoin, which is a crazy concept, and mining of it, how you do it.
Yeah,
with your computers and all this stuff, and you have to mine it, and then you can get it. And he had 10 of them, which he mined for it cost him maybe $20 to mine it, and $80,000 of them or something. It's kind of there's crazy upside, crazy downside with cryptocurrency is what it is.
Yeah,
it's all over the map. But if lost $4 million in this situation, and his signatures are on some documents. And this wasn't, the crazy thing to me is that they would have done this some kind of LLC or some sort of company that could protect them. If it's straight up Malkin and two buddies, you would think they would have. We don't know anything. We don't know anything. It's all speculation.
Right. It could be act, but you still have to sign it. If it's the LLC, you still have to sign forms as a person. So
yeah, but you can protect yourself from this kind of stuff.
Right, but you still have to sign forms. That's what I'm saying. We don't know the inner workings of this yet.
Now, okay, I'm sure we'll find out more about this. In the coming hours to see if this is really serious.
I know Ron Rossi is all over this.
Yeah. I want to touch on this because I think, we looked at the very beginning of the season and you saw teams jumping out to nice records early on. And now we're getting into the 10, 11, 12 game mark and things are starting to settle in. And I have to say, the two teams that are sort of poster children for this are in the East, the Buffalo Sabres, and in the West, the Edmonton Oilers.
Right.
Buffalo, I think, played their worst game of the season late last week against the Rangers. Yep. Defensively, they were terrible.
They were.
And gave up a number of opportunities and hung Carter Hutton out to dry. Then they come back and they get a shutout, and a shutout against Detroit, and everybody thinks everything is fine. Detroit could be the worst team in the league by leaps and bounds. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not sure if I would put any stock in that. Edmonton, they get trounced by Florida yesterday, 6-2. They've lost 3 of their last 4 games, and the game that they won, Washington was up 3-1 in the second period. Ovechkin scored a couple goals. I don't know what Todd Reardon is doing as an NHL coach, because if he told his team to sit back in Edmonton on a 2-goal lead, he should be fired immediately. They sat back. McDavid and Draisaitl took over that game. They tied the game with a little under 2 minutes left to go, and then I think Draisaitl scored the game in overtime. They were dominating that game, and they just sat back and let Edmonton take over control. Now Edmonton loses to Florida, and Florida has not been exactly a big success story lately. But I think that right now these two teams, I'm going to see Buffalo play Arizona tonight, and Arizona has been playing pretty well. I think you're seeing the sort of come to Jesus moment where these teams are the realism is starting to come around. I'm not saying they're going to fall on the flat in their face, but they're not anywhere close to being as good a teams as their record is showing right now.
Yeah, I think it's coming home to roost, but I'll be fair though. That Ranger game, I said to a few Sabres fans, I felt like that was a throwaway game. It was just one of those games they just never had it, and that happens.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't love their goaltending. I still don't love their defense. Their offense is even better than I thought it was, though, because Middlestat has become what we thought he would be. So that's a nice boost for them.
Yeah.
And Olofsson, I knew would be really good. He's gonna hit a wall at some point too.
Yeah.
So that'll balance out. They're still going to be a team that could struggle in the second half of the season.
Well, here's an interesting thought about the Sabres. Elliot Friedman reported last week that the Ristolainen talk is sort of fallen off because he's happy now. They're, Kruger's the coach. They're playing better. They're having some success. But the name that popped up in terms of them moving a player is Marco Scandella, because Brandon Montour is coming back probably in the next week to 2 weeks. Right. From broken hand. Scandella got hurt on Thursday against the Rangers. I don't think it's anything serious, but it was enough that it put him in a cap situation because they didn't have enough cap room to call up Will Borgen from Rochester. So what did they do, Russ? They put Bogosian on long-term injury, which tells me this guy's never playing again for the Sabres.
No, and we kind of figured that, but they should bring up Will Borgen. Will Borgen could help them in a physical way on that blue line.
Well, I mean, right now they have – when Montour comes back and Scandella comes back, they have 7 defensemen. I mean, Borgen should play now, and I think that Borgen won't get his full chance until they trade Scandella because he's a rental. But it was just ironic that a team like Buffalo that you wouldn't think is in cap jail was just as much in cap jail as a team like Toronto and waited to sign Bogosian on LTIR.
Yeah, but it helped with that. I mean, last couple of years they've had to pay a few guys, so
sure.
But at least they're paying better guys. They're not paying Matt Molson types.
Sure.
By the way, just a little bit more. This news is from a Russian newspaper.
Okay.
So we just I want to throw that out there too. I'm not going to get into that, but I want to touch base on what Mike is saying here too. I mean, yes, Edmonton and Buffalo have both have both struggled, as of the last week or so, but they are combined 17-5-2.
Right.
I mean, so at the end, and of course they're going to struggle. I mean, every NHL team is going to struggle. I was very impressed. I didn't think the Capitals held back at all. In fact, I thought that was the game I wrote about that I thought really showed that the Oilers, even though they were struggling at that point, were more for real than I even thought, because coming back against a team like that, there was everybody who's watched Oilers games, we've joked about in the past, knows that the Oilers tend to get a lead early. And then you go to sleep in the East Coast because you're like exhausted. You wake up and they've lost. That was a very typical Edmonton Oilers thing. And in this game, they got a lead early. Then they fell behind to the Caps, and that would have been it in the past. But here they found a way to battle back and get the win against one of the best teams in hockey right now.
And had they played like one of the best teams, clearly I thought they sat back in the third period. They were dumping it out of the zone. They were just trying to kill time. They were playing the type of game that you end up losing because
you do. But again, also, Draisaitl and McDavid can make you look pretty bad. That's
but when you're letting them possess the puck all the time, they shut them down the first two periods. They were playing the way the Capitals normally play.
No, they were. And
then they were playing this passive crap for the third period, and they allowed Edmonton to come back.
So that's true.
They did. Edmonton also came back on their own there. I watched that game too, and guys like Ethan Bear and stuff like that. These guys are making a big difference. Are they
going to make a difference all year?
No, of course they're not. They're not going to be all stars. Okay, but
I read an interesting statistic, and this shows you the dichotomy of the talent level on the Edmonton Oilers. You know how many goals and assists the third and fourth line have?
Oh, I know, it's horrible.
No goals, no assists.
Yeah,
cannot survive.
The big thing about if you want to make an argument that Edmonton is a flash in the pan is the fact that they're 5-on-5. They're like 21st in the league. Their power play has been unbelievable, and their power play can't keep that rate up. That's the bottom line. Their power play has been great, and their goaltending has been great. They're getting great goaltending and great power play. The question is, can they get their? This is a new coach, a new system. Can their 5-on-5 system? How quickly do we expect it to become what it is?
I'm going to tell you this. To me, this is a recipe for disaster. Draisaitl, 23-52. Connor McDavid, 23-09. Clefbaum, 25-15.
Yeah.
And Darnell Nurse, 23-39. Ethan Bear, 21-31.
Yeah.
It's unsustainable.
It's not sustainable.
Yeah. No, it's not sustainable. But what it is, and this is typical of Tippett, this is, okay, let's win games early here and get the confidence up around the rest of the
team. Bank points. Yeah.
And build confidence. Build confidence with the rest of the team because winning breeds winning, right? And eventually those other guys are going to have to take over. These guys can't keep that going, but you hope that they get enough confidence, that there's enough talent there, and that the confidence can get, because confidence in hockey is 90% of it sometimes. Confidence is so important to teams. A team playing confidently versus a team playing not confidently. All you have to do is look at the Vegas Knights. Confidence is everything when it comes to their first season in the NHL.
But here's the one stat that matters: the Oilers had 36 goals; they've given up 32.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know.
Why don't we take a few questions before we end the show?
I want to bring up the Rangers real quick. The Bruins, we always talk about, hey, that top line, whatever, like Marchand was a +5 yesterday. Their top line just eviscerated the Rangers, but their entire play did. And I've been talking about and asking the question, what does Lindy Ruff do, since January of 2018 when I asked Larry Brooks on air at Citi Field on Sirius XM.
Yeah.
And we're never going to get the answer, but it's gotten to the point now where the defensemen don't know what to do. There were a couple times in that game yesterday where guys were literally not knowing where to go on the ice. So go ahead, ask the question.
Yeah.
Well, it's Rangers related. Asmir is asking, what do you think about Kakko's comments lately about his play? I don't know what the comments were, but I know that Russ, you had mentioned about Kakko and his play so far.
Yeah, he appears lost at times. He's definitely gone through.
He said I'm not playing well at all.
Yeah, he's gone through more of a transition than he thought, than we thought. And I think you should send him down to Hartford. Right now, you could save the full year at ELC, but if he starts ripping up Hartford, then you could bring him up the end of the year and, like Mike suggested to me, and just get under the 40-game mark.
Right.
And this way you don't kill him going towards the UFA. You don't give him an extra year. But he needs some other work that I don't think he's going to get done at the NHL level because I don't think David Quinn really wants to teach him. And so I think it's a combination there. So right now, that's what he needs.
Which just goes along with the what we were saying before about how the Rangers all of a sudden shifted from a developmental team to a win-now team when they traded for Trouba and signed Panarin. It's
and when you're playing Greg McKegg and you're playing Brendan Smith as a forward and you're playing you're playing Michael Haley who scored yesterday. That's
Stuttering Guitarist asked, will Ken Holland and Steve Yzerman make a deal? They already did.
They already did make one deal, yeah.
The Adam Ernie deal, but I think you're talking about a more substantial deal. Tampa Bay doesn't have that much cap space.
No.
Now
I don't think there's a real fit there between those two teams, honestly.
Well, the one thing is though, is that Detroit, and this will make Detroit very interesting. They've got a lot of UFAs, but they have a lot of cap space, and they can retain 50% salary, so they can create their own assets by retaining salary to make deals.
True.
The question is, is there anybody on Detroit that Tampa really wants? And I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I think it's going to be the other way around. I think it's going to be, is there anybody on Detroit that Holland wants? And it could be Michael Rasmussen, because if Kevin was right by saying that Yzerman doesn't love him, then I could see Holland trying to trade for him, because that's a potential gold mine if you get him going right.
I was tying Yzerman and Tampa, but in Yzerman and the Red Wings and the Oilers, I could see one of those veteran defensemen. If Holland thinks he's close to making the playoffs and he has a chance of adding Trevor Daley for a 5th round pick or adding Mike Green, then I think that there could be a deal there. But Edmonton doesn't have a ton of cap space either.
No, but that's why I can see Edmonton trading for a young player if they feel like, hey, you know what? We could do something with him. And if Holland's got word that Detroit's kind of frustrated with him.
Yeah, I think so too.
Last question here. El Guapo asks, again, I love that name. Will teams that are definitely not making the playoffs going to start trading away their trade chips earlier in the season compared to other years?
That's correct.
I don't think
I'm not supposed to answer that question, so go ahead, Mike. You got it.
I don't think so, because remember, these teams build up cap space for the deadline as the year goes along, so they really have to wait until January or February to create enough space to be able to add these players. But I also think that they're trying to get these players, get the value up so they can get more of a return. And I think you by waiting, you accentuate the value of those players.
But there is one player, like Jesse Pujärvi has to get traded for January, so he will get traded. He'll be the one
by December 1. Yeah,
he's on the Team Finland team or whatever that's touring around. He just got added to. I think he will get moved. I think that you're not going to see, if I may answer the question as well. I think that you will see. I know. Yes, Mike. I'm like, that's cool. That's all good, Mike. I want Mike's opinion too. So we got it now. We know it. So all right. So I think what you're seeing with guys like Seabrook and Bobby Ryan being scratched is the answer is no. Like to that question, I don't think you're going to see guys get traded early. I think you're going to see, because the salary cap is messed up. Basically, the salary cap is going to mess up the trade deadline this year in a big way. It kind of messed up before. This trade deadline is going to be very, very tricky for that purpose.
More than any other year. Right.
More than any other year. Which is, which on one side makes you could say, it makes hockey buzz boring, so you just don't have to come here anymore. On the other side, you could say that it really kind of makes it just more challenging, because what trades will happen, but it won't be like the big name players that go around. It's going to be player for player trades, which are always more fun.
Right.
Harder to track down and a lot more work and a lot more rumor sensitive. So they're kind of, I kind of prefer this than when you just have the one guy out there who's going to get traded. He's a UFA, whatever, that kind of thing. That to me is kind of boring, where this is going to be like really digging and finding good stuff. I think you will see some guys traded early, but I don't think super early, but I don't think that means you're not going to see a lot of trades. I think you're going to see a lot of trades. You're just going to see really creative trades, which is why you got to look to guys like Rutherford, who are good at that.
And
Allen's good at that. These guys are good at that.
I wonder whether this will spring the league and the PA into action in terms of the new CBA, because when you get up against the cap this much, and we know this is created because the PA didn't take the escalator, and they're concerned about escrow, but teams want to improve themselves. Players want to go to where they have a chance to win. And the cap situation right now is limiting the ability to have players move back and forth. So I think this is something that has to be addressed in the CBA, where these players have to these teams have to have some flexibility.
I do want to bring up one thing. We saw a tweet the other day, and Mike and I sort of got to the bottom of it with the National Hockey League looking at getting like a 16 league going, maybe with 2 in Canada. Elliot Friedman posted it, but that's only if like the NWHL goes under. And then Amanda Kessel had some comments where she's like, well, it'd be nice if there were some leagues when, women get out of college that they could go to and play. And what she meant by that is play for a living, because a lot of the players in the NWHL still have to get other jobs. But again, my answer to that is, that's how baseball players used to be. You don't just necessarily get a league going and you're set for the whole year and you don't have to worry about another job. You have to create revenue streams before you do that. Right. Now, this PWHPA is either going to be the next greatest league or the biggest faker. And because I don't think the NWHL is going under. So, this statement from the NHL is basically just like, we're going to wait. And, this is what we have in mind. And it's like,
The impression that I got from the report from Elliot Friedman was that this proposed league that is, going to be that the NHL is going to run is a safety net in case the NWHL collapses. Right. And I don't think it's collapsing as much as the people from the other league, the Canadian League, wanted to. I don't think it's collapsing.
It depends on revenue streams. It depends on.
Pretty good. I looked it up a few months ago. They have a new rich owner. They have a deal with Twitch. They added more sponsors. Like, they're doing pretty good.
They're doing well in terms of speculative type things. Like Twitch is a speculative type thing, but it's not like
sponsorship money. And they've added.
No, they're making right calls. They're doing what they can do. They can't do more. They're doing the right kinds of things to do. They do need. They need somebody to take a big shot at them. Like they need investor. They need a couple of years where they don't have to worry about hand-to-mouth type stuff. And that is where the NHL can play into it. The NHL can come in there and say, okay, we're going to float this for like 5 years and get you guys going. And that gives you time to not like to be able to like market it right, to be able to draw it right, be able to tie it to NHL teams, which I think they have to do. I think you need a connection to the NHL any way you can. And then, and it also, I think, needs the NWHL to work with them. I think they need to get that to work along with them. I really do.
But again, the NWHL increased their schedule. They've added more sponsors. They are doing better. And so it's like the NHL waiting for this to happen. It's probably not going to happen. Not in the
I think I kind of disagree, because I think that them doing better is what is spurring on what you're seeing right now. I think that's
just the NHL looking at it saying, oh yeah, we'd be interested now because we see the vision, but they could have seen the vision 3-4 years ago and just gave $20,000 a year to this league. That's it.
They could have, but they didn't, and they won't, because they don't have the right person with the right amount of money who believes in this thing.
Well, they might. This new owner for the Boston franchise is loaded with cash. So we don't know what the plan is going forward, but that person could be instrumental in this.
But if he can work with the NHL, I think, and then you can all get together on something, I think you got something. Otherwise, I think if you have
the NHL doesn't want to work with them. So I think I think the NHL is going to be waiting a while.
I think the NHL does want to work with them. I don't get the impression. I think Bill Daly and stuff like that are going to try to make deals here.
That's not the impression. See, that's not the impression that the report gave. Right. The impression.
No, I know. We're talking about a report. We're talking about negotiations, stuff like that. I don't think that. I mean, we're talking about there are people I know. I happen to know personally people at the NHL who are working on this, and I do think that there's more to this. I think there will be. I think it has to happen together in their minds, at least. And they don't want competing leagues. They do love this owner, like the guy you're talking about. And they do hope that he'll work with them and help, because they'll help him, he'll help them. That's what they need. They need, the NHL loves their billionaire owners. That's what they like. They need those guys.
Yeah.
And
well, the guy Neil Liebman has a lot of money. He owns the Texas Rangers.
Yeah.
Co-owner of the Texas Rangers. So this is their guy with the cash now, Eck. And so he's a pretty impressive guy, actually. He sits on a lot of boards of big companies.
Very impressive guy. And the NHL loves him. So that the question is, they just need a guy like him or a couple guys like him, and then they need the power tools that are already in place to market hockey that the NHL has. That they can push. If they can push those things together, they have something. I think that, and then because then you have, you can make a deal with, say you make a deal with Red Bull, and you're the NHL, and you're saying, okay, 90% of the rev, 90% of your $100 million you're putting in is going to go to the NHL, 10% is going to go to the WNHL or whatever, and you can make deals like that. Where it's an NHL deal that they work with, they combined so that women's hockey is attached to it. That's what you need to do, and I think that's what they're trying to do. So, and then you have something, because then then the women can get the boost of having a partner like the NHL. Otherwise it's going to be it can still succeed, but it's going to be slower. It's going to be a slower process. That's all.
Well, this is funny. You'll laugh at this. A website, theicegarden.com. was talking about the owner of Boston. And so it's a venture capitalist group, Cannon Capital, and they work with Crave Better Foods, makers of the Chipwich. If they've got Chipwich money behind them, that's big money, man.
Okay, we have to end.
Good. You can't go wrong with a Chipwich. You can't do that. That's perfectly fine by me.
We're running up against the time, guys.
Yeah, I know. We're talking about Chipwiches. That's all the time we have for today. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you all tomorrow. Have a good day. Enjoy the games.